Welcome to Old Guy Tech,
the OGT.TV recording studio.
Technology for the rest of us.
Well, good evening, everybody. This is Rob Charney along with John Manajestic behind me here, and our ever-present producer, Jonathan Charney, sitting in the corner trying to help us with technical issues. So we have another wonderful Wednesday, and we've got a couple announcements, a couple things to talk about, and a couple things to scratch our heads about. And off the bat, last week I had mentioned that we were hoping to have a partnership agreement with a company called Calnet. And Calnet's a really great company. They're called a WISP, and a WISP is a wireless internet service provider. They're rated like number 3, at least in California, maybe the nation, as far as their growth goes. I know the growth factor is tremendous. So the video that you're seeing today is on their backbone, and we know that it is considerably faster than what we had before, because we were able to tell. Right now we're running about a second to a second and a half delay. So if you call us, which we would love you to do, we're going to be able to hear you great, but you're going to have to listen to your computer to get the answer, because we have a technical issue that we weren't able to get to today. There was just too many things going on.
They broke it.
I broke it. But on the good side is you're going to sound wonderful. You just can't hear me or John. So so we fixed one thing, we broke another. But back to Calnet, I want to thank them for giving us the opportunity to test this out.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And come on, guys. We really want to say that this show is brought to you by Calnet, delivering internet services for El Dorado County and beyond. And, get a nice little rotating banner. We would do all kinds of the good little stuff for you guys. So hopefully one of you are watching are willing to jump up and finally do this. I know it's like every little bit larger company. You have a board you got to go to, and it's got to get approved, and yada, yada, yada. I understand all that, but hey, we're not talking about a whole lot out of your pocket, but it sure is a big savings for us. So I can tell you that much.
Why do we make so many terrible obstacles to reasonable commerce? Try it.
Yeah.
When TV started, they just tried stuff.
And if it's stuck,
some of it worked,
yeah.
Some of it didn't.
And you know what? They're still doing that, aren't we all?
There's no quality control at any of the networks. That's for sure.
Some of it's pretty sad. It really is. But
Jimmy Kimmel takes over the Tonight Show February the 14th of 2014.
And they move it to New York. And who's going to be the director?
Nada de Cordova.
Who's the director-producer of Saturday Night Live?
Oh, Lauren Michaels. Huh?
Correct. Lauren Michaels is going to be taking over stewardship of The Tonight Show with Jimmy Kimmel. Very interesting.
There now sounds like there's a windstorm where you're at. He's still pressing buttons and turning knobs, folks.
A windstorm?
Yeah.
Let me see. Oh, well.
Oh, maybe it's just the wind whipping through my ears again.
It probably is, since there's nothing to stop it.
That hollow, every once in a while you get that hollow feeling, and there it is. So what are we going to talk about here?
Well,
shall we? I read your thing, and I'll let you introduce it, and then I'll ask you the question I'm setting up.
So what I did to all of you out there that are just... I'm still playing with mic settings while I'm talking here. One of the things that we decided we weren't going to talk a lot about were gun issues. Well, in the first email that I sent out yesterday, the fact was there was so much that irritated me on gun issues that I sent them out. And then John rightfully tapped on my shoulder and said, hey, I thought we weren't going to talk about gun issues. And I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. So with that in mind, I asked him to send me...
Let's talk about some guns here.
Yeah.
Will ya?
With that in mind, he sent me some long links from the Huffington Post
and
AOL.
The BBC.
Yeah, well, all right. So neither of which do I believe a whole lot. But that's just me. for what it's worth. So anyway, one of the things that
God help us for what you believe.
that's right. God help us is right. I what can I say? At least I'm going to do my magic clicker. All right. So what I sent out got passed around by the gun lobby, gun groups, because, as you know, many sheriffs, Utah in particular, even here in El Dorado County and throughout the nation, have stood up and they have said that they are firm believers of the Second Amendment. They believe that citizens have the right to own their firearms. And as we know, there's a big debate going on on the federal level. I won't even get into the state level. In California, I don't even want to talk about it.
It's a lost cause for you people with guns.
Yeah, it just probably is. And those are other issues we can talk about. But
it's people like me.
Can't wait.
No,
I
that's
can't
not
wait
true.
till you're here in the studio because I'm going to stick it to you. So
how could I tell you we're planning to stick it?
I'm going to stick
come
it
on,
to
come
you
on.
big time. I can't wait till you're here. So anyway, with that said, we talked about a decision that was Marbury versus Madison.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the interesting line basically is that in the decision that Chief Justice John Marshall, one of the things that only anybody could see anything good about was the fact that a law which is unconstitutional is not a law at all. Well, that was a very nice statement. And basically, it's just thrown out there for the good of the cause because I don't think it means a damn thing. I've read the decision over a number of times to try to figure out what this headline meant.
Before I emailed it to you and said, are you really going to argue this?
Yeah. That's what John said. He says he wants to see how this plays out.
Ladies and gentlemen, in legal terms, it's the basis for judicial review.
Correct.
John and Madison and James Madison was the Attorney General, and Marbury was one of the justices of the peace that were appointed by John Adams at the end of his term.
Correct, and the whole
and due to the lack of speed of communications, they were not communicated until after he was out of office. Therefore, Jefferson
determined it was not legal.
Well, he said he wasn't going to recognize that.
Yeah. So anyway, that was that. I'm going to interrupt for a second, Jonathan. Would you check the live stream again? Looks like we're having an issue with John again here.
Yeah, I cannot hear myself in my headphones.
You
So I'm
can't?
not sure that my audio is going out.
Well, I can hear you just fine. If you can't hear yourself, you've got something going on your end, John, and I don't know what it is.
Hey, up your end.
I know. Jonathan's going to restart his section there and see if
And
anything.
if I have to hang up and we'll call back to make it right, that's okay with me.
I just want to make sure the audience.
Anyway,
I just want to make sure the audience can hear you.
The entire issue was based on this, and of which I said to you, and this is what you've probably loaded your skeet gun with for me, is nullification. You can't do it. Federal law trumps county law, and in this particular case, I'm going. No, but I have not read the executive order that tells sheriffs to do anything. Again, and I do say after the last week that there's not going to be any gun legislation anyway, so it's moot. The emotion over, I even had a kid today go on and on about the conspiracy of Newtown to just take our guns away. And I just kind of said, yeah.
Well, everybody has a right to their opinion, right? Isn't that what we're talking about?
5-year-olds. I mean, I know about propaganda. I'm in the advertising business. Damn it!
Not anymore. You're a school teacher. You're one of them. You are one of them.
Yes, I am.
Oh.
And we kill kids to make our point. Brother.
That's right.
Don't mess with us.
You're
I feel awful for saying that, but I'm talking to Rob. So what else am I?
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, I don't know what the hell they're thinking on this decision. I understand it was that it was ruled that the timing had nothing to do with it. The order was complete at the time of signature, so it was a Odile. So don't ask me why I threw that in there. It was just,
it's somebody. Are good. Was it Bill that called last week?
yeah, Billy.
And Bill, please call again. But Billy started out on the First Amendment, and somehow we got on the Second Amendment, and
We got it
I
everywhere.
defended the argument with the Fourth Amendment. Y'all should probably pull out a copy of the Constitution.
Yeah,
If you're
good idea. Good idea.
I keep one handy.
Yep, I do too. I used to give them out. As some of you know out there, I am a state of California certified instructor, law enforcement instructor, and concealed weapons course instructor. And I used to, at every one of my classes, hand out, I got a great deal on a bunch of these Constitution books with the Bill of Rights and everything in it. It was really neat. I got a great deal. I can't get that deal again. It was like $1 a book. I bought 200 books, and it was great. So I used to give them away, but I can't find that deal now.
Did you ever get a Capital Racing beer glass?
You promised me one many a time.
I still have a case. You'll get one.
Because I always thought you were too busy drinking out of them to give them up.
No, actually, I'm not drinking from these. It was the greatest deal in town, and I will have an egregious plug. California Glass in Oakland.
Oh.
I mean, to do this screen on the glass, of which you had to give them a disclaimer that the paint contained lead, and if they held on to it for their entire life and never let go of it, you could possibly die of lead poisoning. But that fact is, they made the glasses. The whole package was like $1 and change.
Yeah.
They warehoused them for me, and I didn't get charged until they delivered them. Could
Wow.
you find a better deal?
Wow. Are they still in business?
You betcha.
Okay, good.
You betcha.
That's a good deal because a company that's willing to do
ladies
that.
and gentlemen, I will tell you, as being a former advertising and marketing guy, a piece of glassware, the level of a 16-ounce, pub tumbler that you could pound nails with before it would break in most cases. People are still drinking out of that thing and going, maybe the harness races, because I think your Kings are gone, but the harness races are still there in Sacramento.
Hey, there was some kind of. I did not get a chance to read the information today in Washington about the Kings, but something happened, and supposedly something happened good that looks like the Kings will stay after all.
The drop dead date was a month ago.
Yeah.
It was March the 1st.
Yeah, and they continued it.
And I don't know how anybody feels one way or the other about Kevin Johnson. And the Maloofs turned on him as an insincere negotiator. The Maloofs they got balls enough to call somebody insincere. So I know that Kevin was moving hell and high water and to try and keep the Kings.
Right.
And
he is
Seattle
doing that.
would love to have a basketball team.
Yeah. Well, I hope the Kings stay, but it won't break my heart if they don't. But because I'm not real happy with this arena deal that goes along with this package. Good news for me, I don't live in Sacramento County. Bad news for you guys that live in Sacramento County, your taxes are going to go up.
Oh, God. By a bunch.
Yeah.
And Sacramento just raised their sales tax this week.
Yes, as did the majority of the counties in California. As well as the state increase. It also took place Jan 1. We had a quarter cent.
Yeah.
We had a quarter cent price increase. Yeah.
I mean, I feel that I'm not getting my FICA is back on my paycheck. Every time I pay for something, I realize that was it proper to take out. We did election night. Was it 30 or 31? Brown's initiative passed.
Right.
And believe me, he who has limited resource is noticing that where'd that money go?
Yeah.
I had money, but now I don't. Now, unlike you up there in the foothills that print your money, we down here on the flatland have to earn ours. It doesn't go as far.
What? I didn't hear you. John, you there? John, I'm losing you. John.
I'm right here. No, if I was there, I had no reason to go away.
Oh, I know. I was just when you started saying printing money, I was hanging up on you. Is what I was doing.
Oh.
So
Well,
anyway,
I have no resource to buy three-wheeled Batmobiles to zoom around the Sierra.
that is so cool. That's my fourth midlife crisis. I went.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I don't know. How many have I had? I've had a lot.
Well, yeah, but who did that to me? Well, that's kind of weird. It just adjusted the light and focused me again.
Yeah, actually, you're even a little bit delayed.
Something happened. Well, the quality of my signal here that I'm transmitting on can go in and out.
And that may be what's going on.
I've got a red indicator on call quality information. Connection is very slow.
You want to? There's never any harm in rebooting and reconnecting with us. And
no, that's actually not the issue.
Okay.
I live in a house with many people, and somebody is obviously taking some bandwidth.
Probably watching. No, I won't say it.
But the guitar music is so good on this.
Well, thank God for Pandora. I don't know.
That's why the Lord invented the wah-wah pedal.
Yeah.
I actually watched Boogie Nights over the Easter holidays. I was in L.A. I hadn't remembered that film. I hadn't seen that film, and it's a piece of work. It's definitely soft porn. There's no doubt about that. But it was pretty amazing.
Can't say that I even remember.
Burt Reynolds was unbelievable.
Oh, really?
Oh, man.
Huh. Good old Burt.
He's still kicking. He had some health problem a couple of months ago. But,
yeah, he's had some issues on and off. He certainly had enough Botox that even if he dies, we won't know.
Can you tell I had work done over there?
Yeah, it's a wonderful job too. Thanks. Yeah,
with a mustache like this, you can tell if I got Botox.
So, let's see here. I had a couple of things that I just thought I'd throw out just because I could. Dear Senator Feinstein and Senator Rogers, they are now claiming because the chairs of the House and the Senate, Rogers is a congressman, of the Senate Intelligence Committee said Tuesday's briefings led them to believe that Syrian President Assad has crossed President Obama's red line and used a chemical weapon on his own citizens.
And while in Israel, the president was asked about that because that's when the supposed use of the chemical weapons happened. And he said exactly what I would have said if I was president. Not until I know, are we going to nuke them? There's been no real, to what I know at this point. Gosh, it looks like I have a red nose. But I don't have any confirmation, and nor do I, believe me.
We're not privileged to it, John.
But the issue of it, too, is, do we need to get out of Afghanistan, end that war, stop losing people physically and mentally, and do we want to get into another war? We're helping. I know we are providing some aid in Syria at this point. After that, I don't know, and I have no problem with a good war, but I haven't seen a good war in a long time.
Yeah, I don't want to go over to war anywhere over there. Period. And you're absolutely right. There would have to be literally blood running in the streets if Assad is doing that to his own people for me to even go, yeah, okay.
Well, off the show, we were talking a couple of weeks ago. I did Vietnam in 8 PowerPoint slides, and I timed it 32 minutes. But one of the things is when the Gulf of Tonkin came up, I had to say to them, just like Remember the Maine and WMD, it didn't happen. the Vietnamese did not attack our ship in the Tonkin Gulf.
Nope.
It was a lie. So, on unreliable intelligence that he's used chemical weapons against his own people, I ain't going to war. I want us to be vigilant about that, and
Absolutely,
as kind of a world peacekeeper, and having the military might to do it. If he does, then let's come with the drone and take him out where he lives before we kill a bunch of collateral people.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. We've got to make 100% as sure as we possibly can that it actually happened, because, as we know in Iraq, there wasn't anything there.
Well, and Osama bin Laden, I don't want to transgress, because it'll sound like I'm beating up on the previous administration, and I certainly have issues with them.
Yeah,
but I have issues with administrations over time that got involved in wars. I mean, you know how we got into Vietnam?
Oh, you mean besides helping the French out?
Bien Bien Phu, and the French got their asses whipped by the Vietnamese.
Yep.
Because their fort was down in a valley, and the Vietnamese got up in the hills surrounding it and just pummeled them.
Hey, nobody ever gave France any credit for figuring out, other than Napoleon, for figuring out how to fight a war.
And as you can well imagine, the leader of the Allied forces in Europe, who planned D-Day, just didn't have a lot of respect for the French military ability. And it therefore kicked off the whole Vietnam thing. He sent people in.
Yeah.
Kennedy sent people in. Yeah. And actually, when I was doing the Vietnam presentation, they did mention Johnson. I remember it vividly, being the blue lib that I am, when Johnson came on and said, "I will not accept, nor will I run for the presidency." I thought that was a moment in courage. That was that he had enough. What he was saying was, I screwed up. I listened to McNamara. I listened to all these pretty boys that were trying to run a war like Ford Motor Company, and body bags, and 50,000 American soldiers are coming home dead.
Yeah.
God knows how many injured and how many slightly tweaked for the rest of their lives. And I screwed up, man. I went forward to this, and he was strong enough to stop the war, but he he put his sword down and went home. He did a form of Washington. I thought that for a guy whose entire life was politics, and of course we will hear. This is an early opinion, as the 50-year anniversary of the assassination comes up, but I strongly contend if Lyndon Johnson is not vice president, there may have been a different outcome.
We'll put that one onto the long list of possibilities. How's that?
Took a lot of. He was a politician's politician. He was a politician at the time.
Yes.
And he definitely had the cojones to step and move forward and assume the mantle, and move forward.
Well, he did. Yeah, he did what a vice president's supposed to do. There's been a few books written about Johnson himself, and I'm sad to say that I never really have read them. But I
have, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, but you got to kind of know. And we're going, I don't know why the hell we're all the way back to Johnson here, but
Gulf of Tonkin.
Oh, all right. So there we go. Yeah. And Vietnam and that whole thing.
And Syria. Why don't we,
Anyway, the whole big
load up and bomb the hell out of Syria.
Yeah. So the deal with Syria, and we're going to bring us back into 2013. Is really that this report is 3 weeks old right now, and it's funny how, I don't know about you, but I haven't heard anything recently about this. And but I always wonder what starts these things, and then all of a sudden, nothing. And what's credible and what isn't credible any longer. We've gotten.
I have an observation to make there, and that is, and it's becoming entirely obvious to me, that politics have gotten way ahead of process. due process, passing legislation, making laws. Boehner the other day said, "I reject the word compromise." Frankly, folks, and if it pisses some of you off, come on and call. You can't fucking say that and be a politician, nor a Speaker of the House, that I reject the word compromise. That is politics. Rob, you've been in it enough on different levels. I have too. If there is not conversation for the purposes of compromise, democracy is dead.
Yeah, I don't know what's going over on his head there.
And I could rev this whole thing up, but I'll leave it there.
Oh, well, yeah. How in the world are we going to do anything without compromise? I reject compromise. That's an interesting statement, but why? I mean, why?
Because he's trying to save I could degrade it into so many different levels, and I don't want to be attacking about it. The fact of the matter is, John Boehner is a golf playing, cigarette smoking ne'er-do-well who is in a gerrymandered district where he can't be not voted. He can't be voted out. I mean, he ran unopposed.
Yeah.
In 2000.
He'll be there forever.
And I don't care for the guy much because he's nothing. I mean, he tried to pass legislation through his own body and couldn't get it passed. I very much want to engage with the enemy, and from the blue point of view, that would be Cantor, Ryan, and McCarthy. In particular, Cantor and Ryan, who I think are cowards because they hide behind Boehner and push him out and say, "Go say that," and they're really the power behind the throne.
Well, so that just points the fingers back at Boehner, saying he doesn't have the backbone to stand up and do what needs to be done.
He will go down in history as the worst Speaker of the House in history.
I have no way of knowing that, but he isn't enlightening me, and I'm supposedly in his party, and I shake my head every day at some of the stuff that's being done.
Well, I mean, even just as a topic in the news, Cantor came out today, and the Republicans in Congress want to mess with the overtime rules and make it rather than you getting time and a half and I don't know anymore because I haven't worked on the clock and so on. It was time and a half for the first 4 hours of overtime, then it becomes double time after that. This is those awful unions that got these things to be accepted pay procedure in the United States and wants to make it a cafeteria plan. You could either have the money or you could have the time off. Money's money. If you have enough money, you can take time off. As my father told me so clearly, make sure you always receive 100-cent dollars. And I've made that a point in life, and have succeeded many times and other times not. But at the same time, I mean, we need, and I'm going to go to my mantra, folks, and this is the one, start throwing the cream pies. Prosperity, not austerity. A middle class with good paying jobs and some benefits, and the train's back on the tracks. Just cutting spending without coming up with a way to reemploy America. I mean, unemployment. Here's my middle of the road bullshit point. But we do have unemployment numbers that say we're down to 7%. Sans how many people that quit looking, my age in particular.
There's There's a whole bunch of people that aren't counted in those unemployment figures.
Right, the figures are down because those are only the ones actively in the market, and those are younger people that have graduated from college that can't find jobs equal to their education.
Jonathan's in the same position. I mean, he's been technically unemployed from his skill and his education level for almost 4 years. And that's because he was in the building trades and he was in architecture. And that stuff still is taking its time to roll along.
And it's starting to come back in Bakersfield. It's starting to come back in Southern California, but up the Central Valley from Bakersfield north,
not so much.
It's still 16% unemployment rate.
Yeah, it's incredibly high here still. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. One of my complaints, and we've spoken about this before. I mean, I grew up in a union family. You did not, but I did, and I understand the issues, and I understand why the unions are there. I understand how they protect the workers. Sometimes, like the Jimmy Hoffas, I think there's a little bit more going on than just protecting the workers, as always seems to happen when you get in a position of power. There's a little thing called corruption that always seems to end up in there. Anyway, one of my issues had always been is when you have a situations like we did during the WPA, when we were facing a situation where we had to put people to work, we had bridges built, we had roads built, we had dams built, we had, we did it. We did what needed to be done.
Tennessee Valley Authority was built.
Yeah.
And it still is a vital employment thing in that area of the country to this day.
Sure, absolutely. And I see a need for us to do it again. But the problem I'm having, that I'm seeing from my point of view, is that, and I'm not blaming the unions, but they're being they want to protect what's theirs. And so trying to bring people in to work to be day laborers or if they have a skill or whatever it may be, and you are not a member of the union and you're not getting a prevailing wage, you're not going to work. And with that situation, we need to make a correction somewhere so that we can get this rolling. I would rather see Obama give money to infrastructure improvement to hire people that need the work than anything else. And we need to find a way for when you talk about compromise, and Boehner won't compromise, you have the unions sitting there that say, no, hell no. Something's got to happen.
Well, but there something has happened, okay? And
I haven't seen it. Prevailing wage is still mandatory out there. You can't just walk in. You can't become a day laborer and just walk in and do anything. You have to be a member of a union. Electricians, IBEW, operating engineers, steam fitters. Whatever.
Then what are the 11 million illegal aliens doing?
Well,
if you can't walk in and get a day labor job?
Because they're all doing it under the table, John. I'm talking about legitimate work. I'm not talking about here's some cash, go dig a ditch for me, okay? I'm talking about legitimate wage for a day's work, that we can get people back to work, we can improve our infrastructure, and we can get the middle class stronger again. That's what I'm talking about.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. That's and folks, until somebody calls and attacks me, and then I'll defend myself. My mantra is prosperity, not austerity. We need to wrap things, because and in that war thing we were talking about,
right.
War economically bailed us out many times because we were an industrial economy.
Absolutely.
And the United States prevailed in World War I and World War II because we buried the world in tanks and jeeps and airplanes and bombs.
That's when we could build everything. We put people to work to build everything.
Oh yeah. And the stupidity of the whole thing, and this as an economist, an econ teacher, that I don't fully understand is, and it was in that end of the Eisenhower administration, beginning of the Kennedy administration. I still feel it was Eisenhower's admonition of beware of the military-industrial complex. Somewhere in the great minds that drive things, they decided that the United States was going to become a consumer economy. And that's when we went kind of off the rails about building great things and doing what made us a great country prior to that.
Yeah.
Now, can we in today's economy can we become a production economy again? Don't know. May have to, because
I hope so.
May blow itself up.
Yeah. Well, that's another issue over there. But all right. So I have no problems being a trade partner with China, and helping China grow by producing low enough goods that the average citizen over here can buy them. Okay, I understand the economics there. What I don't understand is, the so-called savings that these corporations said they were making by outsourcing. There's an awful lot of companies now taking a second look at that thought, and we outsourced to India, we outsourced to China, we outsourced to Taiwan, we outsourced to Mexico, we outsourced to Canada. It's like, well, how the hell are you going to put anybody to work if you keep sending everybody away?
And how are you going to sustain a consumer economy when people aren't working? They don't have fair wage jobs.
Exactly.
They're working 3 jobs, and then the other part, I call it the MBA mentality, because they've come in and they've snapshotted everything and go, well, how can we lower cost? How can we lower marginal cost, increase marginal revenue? How can we find fees? How can we charge people for things that we do that we used to provide as a service to the customer?
Right.
How can we now charge them for that and earn our money for nothing and our chicks for free?
One of the things that you hear complaints about all the time, right, is customer service. You buy a computer, you got a problem with it. Where do you call? You call this nice little hotline, and where is it? It follows the sun, and it's all these call centers around the world. And what the hell? I have an ongoing battle. I have an ongoing battle with Dell right now, and I have for a while. And I'm never buying another Dell product, because what made Dell great, and one of the reasons why Dell wants to buy his company back and still be its leader, what made Dell great was its customer service. They were there for their customers. They sold the product. They had pride in their product. They backed it up. When they went public, all that went out the window. And their customer service is probably the worst. And I hope that Dell is able to actually purchase back his company and bring it back private. And maybe things will change.
As Ford kind of did, which is why they didn't need to be bailed out.
Right.
HP used to be, you bought a printer,
Yep.
you just went and bought an HP printer. But then they needed to, they went much awry. And I will go back to, my friend, even Xerox, which goes way back to when we were born, with Big Blue and Xerox and punch cards. Xerox used to be one of the best companies in the world to work for now. And now they either they outsource either offshore or they outsource, period.
Right.
In other words, they hire independent contractors. They oftentimes fire people, so they no longer have to provide the pension, the health, the whatever.
Exactly.
And then rehire them as independent contractors.
They lose all their benefits, and right.
Right. I mean, I've got to tell you, and this goes back to the union thing. I remembered when if you got a job, health insurance came with it, and all this. Now it's pay an employee as little as you can. Now, also being a high school teacher, a lot of the employees that you get aren't worth what you're supposed to pay them.
Yeah.
And I tell kids daily. There are a couple of things I tell kids daily. Look, in class, it's just like being at work, and they're not going to pay you to not do anything. If you're at school, you might as well just do the work, because that's what school's for.
That's your job.
So, come on.
You do your school.
Yeah,
That's your job. That's right.
Buck up, man up. Let's do.
Yeah.
I had kids today, and there was no demand for it to be. It wasn't due at the end of class, and I said, "Look, let me tell you something. If you want to impress your daily teacher, and you want to make me look good, let's finish the assignment." I had an 80% success rate.
That's incredible. Good for you. Good for you. So you're getting the message across.
You want to talk about something you should call on this one, folks. Why would you, if you own a company, okay, and you manufacture a product, and that's kind of reaching. But if 60% of your production was returned, would you still be in business?
Yeah, I don't think so.
That is the American prison system.
Yeah. Recidivism
And
is
we still-
incredible.
we still
It's higher than that, I think, John. I think it's higher than 60%.
No, well, the
I mean, it depends
rounded off
on-
number in California it may be higher.
Okay,
but
yeah.
folks, once and for my red people, this will get them excited. Since the Wilson administration, when we privatized prisons in California, and they grew exponentially, it's good business, and the fuller the prisons. But American people, all of you, however you feel about the Constitution, the true fact is we incarcerate 25%. We have more people in jail than any country on earth. And in a system that should be trying, the whole idea of going to prison is that you can reform them, 60% or more come back. Could that be an underlying problem? Talk about handouts. We've got people that are social retrobates. We know that. They break our laws. And we put them in prison. And in California, if they break 3 times, we put them in prison for life. So that we don't have a 60, and even with that, we have a 60% failure rate. Could that be a problem?
One of the things that they keep pulling back because they're trying to cut these budgets on the prisons is the trade schools that they had and were very successsul at.
You talk about people getting a handout. They don't do their own laundry anymore. They don't cook their own food anymore. They're not self-sustaining any longer. You used to get your license plates made at the prisons. Not so much anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened with that
program.
program.
They sit in cells, watch TV, and we pay for it.
Yeah, it's and I'm sure even these people that are in prison, they can't want to just sit there all day long and not do anything. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they do. It would drive me just
Here's
nuts.
where you got the cross. So now what do you have? You have gangs in prison that
Right.
run the deal.
Right.
And they'll sit on their butt and collect money because they're corrupt.
Well, yeah, they're doing, they've got the drugs in the prisons, the cell phones in the prisons. They've got, and all that contraband is money. And those gangs are running the outside gangs for money for the inside gangs.
And then let's now go to the Texas DA and deputy DA that were shot and killed in Texas. And today a sheriff was killed outside the courthouse in West Virginia.
Here's an issue that came about in New York, and I feel very, very bad for the district attorney, assistant district attorney, the district attorney's wife, who was also killed in this whole situation. You wonder.
You talking about Texas or New York?
This has got to be Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be Texas. So what happens is that occasionally, and I'm going to knock a little bit on me as a member of the press, is sometimes we do things that are not necessarily for the betterment of the country, shall we say.
It's news.
Yeah, but what isn't news is publishing addresses of lawmakers, of police officers, of district attorneys, of all these other places. So it's really easy if these gangs, and I understand this situation in Texas is an Aryan Brotherhood situation that's running rampant over there. What happens is every now and then, in the name of free press, a situation may come up where somebody gets a burr up his saddle, and I'm going to publish every address of every constitutional officer in a state, and it's happened. And I believe this is partly what happened here in Texas. I don't know. I think it's gang related, and more than likely, unfortunately, those individuals were followed and probably followed home, and a hit was put out for them. So now we have.
When the sheriff was shot, when the DA was shot 20 times in his own home.
Right.
And this was a man that was known to be armed everywhere he went.
Yeah. Well, he didn't have his gun when he answered his door. A lot of good that
And
did.
I will suggest to you, my friend, I will just suggest to you that, and you know, like I said, today I had a kid tell me that Newtown was, you know, it was the whole conspiracy theory about Newtown. If more DAs and sheriffs start getting killed, it will talk about a fan to bring about gun legislation, and it will come from the middle of the other side. Because you just, I mean, and I can't fathom that. I do agree. If you kill a fireman, a cop, a DA, somebody that's doing our business, and you kill them or threaten, I mean, have we become so corrupt that the 60% criminals, since 60% come back, you got to say we have probably a 50 to 60% of criminal class, right? Whether they're gangs or whatever. When they start killing cops, this will become an issue. I assure you.
Yeah. Well, and
because
but the issue is, the problem is where is that argument going to lie, John? And that's where my issue is. I don't believe that the issue to this situation with these people that died, I'm sorry to hear what happened. It was a gang issue, and I think if you're suggesting that the gun debate is going to be fanned because of this, and it's going to be the anti-gun debate, I'm going to suggest it's going to be the other way around, and because statistically, these gangs don't go into a gun store and do a background check and purchase the gun. Okay.
That is the consistent argument, but the question is,
it's true though, John.
And again, this is the deal: is it the gang or the gun? It's the gang mentality that gets a gun that commits the crime.
You're never.
In other words, the eye for the eye, and that we. I guess part of the issue is, you know, and when we talked about the M1s and them giving away the Garand after World War II, I'm one way or the other. Either arm everybody, and nobody's going to take away your weapons. But the issue of gangs and guns, which so tragically kill tens of thousands of people in this country every year, maybe we'll deal with the core of the matter. I mean, you know, the Newtown guy, the Aurora guy, I think are anomalous, although they happen a lot. The fact of the matter that, and believe me, I teach in a gang environment. Schools are a gang environment, people. Let me inform you, there are gangs at schools. And we've got to deal with this gang and criminal issue. I mean, real criminals. And when you talk about giving people a free handout and not knowing who they are, prisoners, convicts,
right.
the 60, that's a lot of people. And you and me and the next door neighbor and the guy in the other room are all paying for those guys.
Yeah. Well,
because when they get out of jail, we pay for them as well.
Oh yeah, we keep paying and paying and paying, and but so it's back to, we had a couple of subjects in there that we kind of looked over, and I wanted to get back to trade schools and being productive. What's that?
Well, trade schools. We don't have them.
No, why get?
We don't have fucking shop classes at high school anymore.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother issue. It's just disastrous as far as I'm concerned. I will say in California, and since we're fairly near Folsom Prison, which the world knows famously by Johnny Cash, they do have an auto shop at Folsom Prison that they have, and they do have a carpentry shop, because I happen to know two people that teach those courses for those prisoners in there.
Some do, and in Northern California, and in some Southern California's, Taft has an auto shop.
Yeah.
Here in Kern County. But the deal of it is, number one, we're graduating less. We are producing less engineers since we have cut shop classes out of high school.
Right. Because
it doesn't give people that other avenue, I'm losing my mind on what I'm, but a general education is one thing, but not everybody is good at book learning.
Oh well, all right. Not everybody's going to go off to college. We need the mechanics. We need skilled labor You don't need a friggin' history degree. We need somebody that
you.
knows how to read.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Blueprints, and we need people that know how to work on cars, and we need people that know how to build buildings, and we need the shop classes, and these schools cutting out everything, including the music programs.
Yep.
We're losing all of this, and I was talking to my kids the other day, and we were talking about Santa Monica High School, which both you and I are very, very proud to be alumni of.
And
because
we were runner-up in the state basketball championship.
That's right.
We were in it for the first time since 1928 this year. Go Vikings.
Go Vikings. And I explained it to them. I said it's a high school that you don't see very often because it was really a liberal arts high school. It really was. That's what it was about. Our music program was none better. It was one of the best everywhere. Right?
It was so good it's scary.
Yeah, it was
really
incredible, and everybody agrees about that. The bands, the chorales, the orchestras, the jazz band.
The Samo High Orchestra has been to Europe over the last 15 years. Probably 8 times.
Yeah, isn't that something?
That's how good they are.
Yeah, it's an incredible program. It's an incredible high school. I'm sorry it's not something that can't be matched everywhere. And the beauty of Santa Monica High School is they're growing. They're building brand new buildings. They're doing some incredible stuff. And I hope that school continues. It produced some wonderful people, some major stars. It's produced a
John
lot.
Penn.
Yeah.
An alumni.
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
Alumni.
I like that part. I want to meet
We're
Charlie.
winning.
But anyway, it was great.
Folks, there's a Facebook page that says, you're from Santa Monica if.
Right.
All right. And somebody put in, you knew Sean Penn and the guy that he took the character Spicoli from. Folks, there were a lot of Spicolis at our high school.
A lot of them. That's right. Yeah, that was great.
Hey, there are guys that were surfers that are living in Hawaii today, made it a career, that went to high school with us.
Absolutely.
It was unique. Okay, I wax poetic.
Well, I did too. It was unique. But so we got talking about shop classes in that, and we brushed over that with the prisons, and that we need to get back again. There's a fire camp called Growlersburg in Georgetown here near us, and they're an amazing. What they are is they're all trustees, of course. You can't get into Growlersburg if you're a major criminal. It doesn't happen. These are basically light crime people, and they're generally younger people, and they're giving them a skill by teaching them how to firefight. They're becoming firefighters, and
building their confidence level so they can go. They can either be volunteer volunteer firefighters. They're people that learn to step up and be extraordinary when you need to be.
And I got to tell you, we have we're lucky that the El Dorado Rod and Gun Club runs the range for the Sheriff's Department and Forest Service and a lot of other law enforcement agencies. Our range is there for them, and so we get Growlersburg crews to come out and clear brush and work on roads. And you have never seen a harder working group of young men in your life. They want to do something other than be in prison. And it's wonderful to see, and it's wonderful that program's in there. And that's the type of thing that has to continue throughout the country, because we don't want that 60%. We don't want the recidivism that keeps coming. They're just constantly in and out and in and out, and then of course we could keep on going. But as we started talking and got this discussion going, we were talking about trying to create jobs for the middle class, to get people proud of themselves, proud of the country. Let's stop outsourcing stuff. Let's start bringing stuff back in here. Let's put people to work. If the government's going to spend billions of dollars on whatever pork barrel is there, let's do it to make sure that people learn a skill, have a job, earn a living wage. And you know what? I know my Republican friends are just probably rolling in their eyes have went in the back of their heads because they're,
You want to pay them?
Yeah. I do. I do want to pay them. I want to see that money to go to something. I want to see that money to go to something that will mean something, not backing up, $500 million to the solar company that was, here's $500 million. Oh, by the way, we went out of business the week after we got the $500 million.
It wasn't quite that quick, but it was pretty quick.
It was it wasn't far behind that. There was no vetting of the situation of that particular company, and unfortunately,
Rob, go ahead.
there were a number of them. Go ahead.
Well, and this is something we're going to talk about, and I forget the woman from the National Teachers Association.
Oh,
but
yeah.
as you know, 35 teachers and administrators were indicted for cheating in Georgia this week.
Yeah. That's Randy Weingartner.
Randy Weingartner, that
Yeah.
boy, anybody that's a Republican or further right than that, you say that word and you're under the desk. But she made a very important point, and we've skirted around the edges of this, Rob, and this probably assures I never get a full-time teaching job. But what she said was these high-stakes tests are costing us education. Because this, and I said this one day to a guy at school, an old guy older than me teaching school, and we're in the restroom after school. And I said, why does the district always give you freshmen 7th period? They're such a pain in the patoot. And they are. I mean, yesterday I had freshmen all day. I had freshmen a good part of the day today because I was subbing in health today. But different school, better kids. Long story short, he goes, yeah, well, I have them all day. And I went, poor you. And I said to him, has it occurred to you that this year's freshmen, and this was last year, are the first all no child left behind class? And high stakes testing and why teachers cheat is because they're incentivized on standardized testing. If your kids succeed, the woman in Atlanta who was teacher of the year in 2009 got like a total of $75,000 in bonuses for test scores in Atlanta that were 1 in a million that they would increase that high. That's how bad the con stunk. All right, but I will tell you, being a teacher, that these the tests, and it's what I said to this guy. I said these kids are not dummies, and if they know that they can cause a teacher trouble by tanking and doing poorly on a test, it could cost the teacher his job. Them, not so much. They'll give them the test again, and kids are not stupid. And what it did is it put a great deal of power in the hands of students. If they don't do well on the test, you don't get a raise, you don't get moved to a better school, you don't advance, and it's just it has capitalized education. I was listening to an educational conference on the radio, and they called students clients. No. It's not commercial.
It's an interesting way to put it, sadly.
Well, I mean, granted, but see, the thing, this is, again, I call it the MBA mentality. They make these generalizations about the people that spend the money, that drive the train. We have forgotten about the guy that gives you the fucking $2 or whatever it is. He's just the guy, he's just the guy that gives us $2. We know how to get the $2 out of him. Not so much anymore, okay? We're not easy prey. And we, to a certain extent, we have become easy prey. They tell us about Black Friday, so we all run out and go shopping. Because they say you have to. It's like a freaking holiday. No, it's not.
Oh, well.
Marketing,
that's right. Guy was a genius.
P.T. Barnum, there's one born every minute.
Absolutely. Absolute genius. Hey, you know what happened this week? This is an interesting one.
Wait, which one's this?
This is our wrap up. So, 40 years ago today, the first cell phone call was made. 40 years. Yes. And now, I don't know a person that doesn't have a cell phone. I mean,
I don't know. I know a lot of people, including myself, that don't have a landline.
Yes.
Why?
Yes. Why have a landline?
Why do I have to be home to talk on the phone? And if somebody steals it, I'll shoot you. How come you have to listen to their hold music?
Yeah.
You've got so much other music available.
We talked
There's
about that,
gotta-
didn't we?
There's got to be a way to get to your Pandora or something like that.
Absolutely. You can put Pandora on.
But yeah, that cell phone was bigger, much bigger than your shoe.
I wish I had a brick to demonstrate. I mean, the first ones were incredibly large, but still, the technology
I'm
behind
going to
it.
tell you a secret of small market radio. I used to be a jock. I used to be the promotions director. I was the one at oftentimes the jock didn't even have to come because I would cover the coverage and run the contest and all that kind of stuff. But when cell phones showed up, I would go to my buddy's house, the morning jock, and we would drink beer. And when I was supposed to do the drop, I would go out on the front lawn and say, "Hey, we're here at the museum, and things are just great. Kids are getting their pins." Radio. I love radio. And then I do my drop. I go back in and drink my beers, and I got to call back in 35.
God, it's too bad. The cutting days of radio and the way things were. We can't bring them back. And the fact is, you can't buy a radio station unless you're a billionaire. And,
there are licensed low powers, but the great thing is, who needs? Well, I need radio. Radio is like a really important thing to me.
Yeah, but you're right. And what's happened now is in your automobile, everything's Bluetooth, and you hook it to your iPod, Google device, whatever it is, and your music's with you all along, and you don't need this radio station anymore. And
I pay over $200 a year for XM.
Well, I do.
Idiot am I?
I have XM radio in all of my vehicles. Even my new motorcycle has XM radio.
There's nothing on your bike that you couldn't have in a Cadillac.
That's right. It's
And the trunk may be bigger in your two saddlebags than some of the 4-cylinder turbocharged Cadillacs.
I tell you what, it's bigger than that little Italian Fiat that just came out. I got more room in it.
I owned a Fiat. I had a lot of fun in the Fiat I owned. It turned out it was one of the best Fiats you could have owned. It was a 124 Sports Coupe, not the convertible. But I also spent $2,000 a year on just gave it to the mechanic and a $500 bill.
And go fix it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think their entry coming back into the country is a good thing. I'm happy to see them come back. And
they compared in Car and Driver. They compared the 850 to some little Chevy, in that same Metro class, and it was just like, buy the Chevy.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's too bad. I've just seen them in a parking lot. I never sat in them. My guess is it's all low end everything, and it was just
no. It's actually they brought the 850 out to compete with the Mini.
Oh.
Yeah. And so it's,
well, that won't happen.
It's fairly comfortable. It's not. And young people, you wouldn't understand this. It's not like the old days in the super cheap. I mean, you could not get a radio. You could not get a heater.
Yeah.
That was an option.
Air conditioning was never heard of.
Oh, well.
That didn't happen.
That was the Wind Wing.
Yeah, that's right. That was. Now, ask one of the kids now what a Wind Wing is.
Well, and I was with some
Draw me a Wind Wing. That's what you ought to do that tomorrow in your classroom. First kid to draw a Wind Wing will win a candy bar.
Where I live, there are cars with Wind Wings.
All right, so that's true. That's true. You're in the.
Yeah, I'm in the valley.
You're in the valley.
Not up on the hill.
Yeah. But that would. You know what I saw today though? I hadn't seen in a long time. Ralph Nader would just love me.
Well, and the thing about
Corvair. I saw a Corvair.
Where I live, there are a couple of neat ones running around.
You don't see them very often, but it was
but with
so many
people,
memories.
We got into the conversation of the Wind Wing, and we talked about that dog could sit on your lap and sniff the air without rolling down the window, and if it was the greatest thing a smoker ever had. You didn't have to roll the window down. You could just and all that kind of stuff. And I looked it up, and there's no law that made them go away in 1967. Just car makers started taking them away.
Yeah, it was a cost savings. Was what I understood. It actually cost them X amount more.
Oh no, building that extra pillar and putting in another winding mechanism, and in the case of a Cadillac, it was another electric motor to open and close the Wind Wing. But they were great things.
They were. Hey, I actually have one in my big truck, but that's old. Well,
there you go. Speaking of old Guy Tech TV has used up another useful hour of
We
your
have.
time.
We didn't get a single call, and I'm sorry about that. We'll make sure that everything's working right. We could have taken a call, but nobody decided to call, and Billy must have had to go to bed early because he's a truck driver, so we didn't hear from him.
We'll straighten that out, and people will call next week, and I'm gonna start promoting to my people.
Yeah, you got to keep pushing to everybody. I'm begging
Although
everybody.
they may shoot me like the sheriff.
Well, that's
they
all right.
find out what I do.
It's okay. It'll be fine. We in my emails, I'm always begging for something. So and I made a notation.
And I wanted to talk to you about that, Rob. You got to stop begging, okay?
You don't get anything if you don't ask for it.
Well, but then say I ask you. Don't say I beg.
I'm
Begging says
begging.
no
All right.
value.
Oh, I didn't write
Asking
beg.
has
The
value.
word beg was never in the print. This is out of the mouth.
Well,
But anyway,
maybe we should use that.
Yeah.
I beg you to call us.
I beg you. No, I dare you to watch us for another hour.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Listen, you know what I'd really like is that if some of you out there would actually send us an email about some of the topics you would like to hear about, and we can, John and I can go off on a tirade like no other two guys there is, so we'd love to hear some things.
Actually, we're going to do more work. I'm going to send him talking points. We're going to still wing it as we always do, but we'll kind of have a roadmap to go down, and we'll let you know ahead of time. Study up.
Study up. Study up. Please.
Meet the chums.
Thank you.
Pump the chums.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching Old Guy Tech TV. Another one's done. See you next week.